In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we thought that we would get together and talk a little bit about a really important factor in mental health, mental illness.
Let me guess, Jen. Let me guess.
Okay.
All right. And I have like 20 things. I'm going to go with number 16, resilience.
Oh, it's number 16 for you. I thought maybe it was up.
Or is there random order?
No random order. Okay.
I had 20 things swirling around in my head. And the 16th one was resilience.
Okay. All right. I think we should go with that.
Okay, let's
go.
Resilience it is for 500, Jack.
All right. We're going to talk about resilience. And just for people who don't know, I'm Dr. Jennifer Maxfield DiCarlo, the Director of Clinical Services at Safe Harbor Behavioral Care. Who are you?
I am Eric Sundquist, CEO of Safe Harbor. I'm the proud holder of a degree from a state school.
And the number picker, we are going with resilience.
And number picker par excellence.
All right. So when we say resilience, there is an entire research division that talks about what resilience is, the impact that it has on mental health. So we're going to break it down just a little bit. First, let's talk a little bit about why resilience is important, and then we'll start defining it. How about that?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So research studies throughout the last 50 years have looked at resilience and found that there is a correlation between folks' ability to navigate difficult situations and mental health. The higher your resilience, the lower depression and anxiety.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking at a basic level, we use Rocky as an example. I think of the great quote from one of the latest Rocky movies. He's out in the street in Philadelphia, and he's talking to his son, trying to teach him about resilience. And he says to him, he goes, son, life will beat you to your knees, but it's not how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and get back up and keep going. Like, that's resilience.
Yeah.
Just on a basic level.
Yeah. Rebound is what comes to mind.
Yeah.
That's one of the definitions, is your ability when you have life experiences that are challenging to navigate those situations and rebound. Keep on going. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's also, research has looked at wellness, just general well-being, and life satisfaction. So we're not just talking about mental illness, we're talking about everybody, right? Everyone, just general wellness and life satisfaction. Higher resilience means higher life satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If I'm held captive to circumstances, if I don't have resilience, then how great can my well-being be if I'm just living from moment to moment, hoping nothing goes wrong? But if I have resilience, then my anxiety is lower, my peace is higher. I'm thinking, okay, of course, we all want everything to go well in our life, but I'm thinking, okay, when it doesn't go well, I have the tools, the capacity emotionally to handle that. It's not going to knock me out of the game.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about what resilience actually is, right? We know now it's important, right? Across life space, everyone, it's important for. What is resilience? If we were to give it a research definition, I can give you a research definition.
Can you do that? Wait, hold up. You're gonna pick a research definition over Rocky Balboa. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a yeah, or is that a hard yes?
Yeah, I'm going to give you one anyway. Ultimately, I think we'll be back at Rocky, right? Okay. The process and outcome of successfully adapting to challenging or difficult life experiences requiring flexibility, the ability to adjust to both internal and external demands.
Say that again. Okay. I got stuck on the ability to adjust because I just thought that was pretty key. Say the whole thing again.
Okay. The process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences requiring flexibility and adjustment, both internal and external demands.
Well, I mean, that's comprehensive. That kind of covers it. Internal and external demands, flexibility and adapting. You're hitting on multiple pieces of resilience there.
Okay, so since you like that definition, I'm going to give you one more, because this one, I think it spoke to me. It really made me think, oh, wow, that's what we're really talking about. It's the balancing between acceptance of negative life situations and also acknowledging a call to develop skills needed to improve the outcomes when we're facing adversity.
Acceptance and developing skills. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many times we ourselves, even when like circumstances don't go our way, can be in protest mode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. What does protest mode look like? How do I know? How do you know? Anybody watching this, how do we know if we're in protest mode? What's the language of a protester?
Yeah. Well, I think about myself, right? I'm a great petri dish for learning.
That's what I was
right?
thinking, Jen. I was thinking about you.
Were you? I appreciate that, Eric. But I think about myself, and I think, the first thing when I'm in protest mode is I want to find the reason why something is happening. It has to be, I have to be able to explain it, and then I get defensive about it.
Right.
Because
I've noticed that about you.
I appreciate that.
We all have those tendencies.
Right. Yeah. And I think I also try to come to a place of I'm really good at sometimes accepting, but then I try to change it real quick. And so in some ways I don't accept it.
Right.
In some ways I'm like, okay, well, let me figure out what the magic piece is. Oh, I can change that situation. Good. I don't have to look at it again. That's not really thriving.
As you're talking, right, I'm thinking about how many hours have I wasted trying to consider every angle of something and figure it out. Like, that's what a lot of us do. That's what I do. I'm going to figure this out. That's not acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's part of resilience. An early step is acceptance. This is reality. Whether I wish was or don't, like, this is what it is. I need to deal, with this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes me start thinking about the pillars. They call this in research, the pillars of resilience. Right. And the first one, do you want to guess what it is?
Cool.
First pillar of resilience.
It's between self-awareness and vulnerability. I'm going to go self-aware.
Yeah.
I got it.
You did. You got it. There you go. Right? Self-awareness. That's what we're really talking about, is being in a situation that's challenging and being able to step back, and instead of getting defensive, and instead of just figuring out a problem-solving way to address it, I'm going to be aware of what's going on internally with me and externally, how other people are seeing me in the situation, like all of those pieces.
So when you say self-awareness, it sounds like you're talking about, okay, what emotions am I feeling? What larger issues than just, like, our tendency when we don't accept, we're not at acceptance, is to blame somebody else. But you, but this person, if only. What you're talking about is saying, okay, my emotional response inside, what's going on is X. And then maybe a step further would be to say, okay, what's that about? It triggers anxiety for me, or it triggers fear. What's tied to that? It's about something bigger than just that moment. That's self-awareness, right?
Yeah. And so, okay, in all fairness though, your second guess really plays into this too, vulnerability.
Well, I got a bonus. It seems like you hate to admit that. It kills her. It's killing her to admit that. Well, in spirit of full disclosure, I had a cheat sheet here.
Okay, all right. Well,
remember, my degree's from a state school. I need cheat sheets.
But vulnerability is really when you have that self-awareness. Like, no one wants to say, hey, guess what? Right now I'm so scared. Or right now I'm feeling so insecure. I'm feeling inadequate, right? But to be able to verbalize that, to acknowledge what's going on with you, takes a lot of vulnerability.
All right. So what happens in relationships whether it be romantic, parent-child, friendships, when we don't own our emotions and have self-awareness of it. What happens to the solutions? What happens to the relationship? What happens to us internally as time goes on?
Well, not speaking from experience at all,
No.
right? I think I get bitter. I get so frustrated in situations from not being able to acknowledge where I'm at, how I'm feeling.
Right. When the problem's always out there,
Yeah.
then it leads to bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think another word that comes to my mind is discontentment. You know, I don't feel content. How great is that, to feel a sense of peace and at ease and content with life? All those things are gone if the problem's out there. So self-awareness cuts through that.
Yeah.
And like, if you hear the phrase, oh, so-and-so is comfortable in their own skin, right? Or we might say, they're just doing them. They're great at doing them. They probably have self-awareness if it's a person we're using those words to describe.
Yeah.
Like, they're comfortable. They have that peace. They're comfortable with their internal processes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes so much self-awareness, and then going to the next one, they all intertwine. But the next pillar of mindfulness.
Wait, well, vulnerability, what were you going to say about, because you threw that in there too.
Yeah. The reason it was kind of connecting for me was that vulnerability also is being able to say that hey, you know what, this is going on inside of me. I don't necessarily have to change it. I need to acknowledge it's there.
What does vulnerability do for our mental health when we're able to go to that place? 'Cause that's kind of the opposite of defensiveness.
Yeah. I think that it really speaks to authenticity.
Right.
Being able to, and we feel most alive talking about wellness, right?
Yeah.
We feel most alive and we thrive when we can actually be vulnerable and be authentic. What do you think?
Man, I'm so glad. I never thought you were going to ask me. I'm so glad you threw that out there. No, what was coming to my mind when you were talking about that was just, we're giving people something to connect to. Like, I'll coin a word to think about, how connectable are we? You know, how easy is it to connect with me, or how difficult for you? How easy is it for people to connect with you or not? I think the answer to that question, a lot of it depends on what are we putting out there to the other person. Are we putting something out that they can connect to?
Yeah.
And so I think vulnerability does that. It makes us authentic enough, to use your word, to connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And so relationships deepen, they are fulfilling. You know, I think of the whole concept of things that are hidden have a lot of power. Like, we say that a lot in mental health, even in certain spiritual circles. That's kind of a concept that gets some airtime. Is things in darkness or secrecy have a lot of power. So vulnerability is the point where we stop running from something. We've all run from something before. An emotion we're afraid of, a situation, something about ourselves that triggers, here's another word we don't like, shame. Right? We've all run from something. Vulnerability is the point where we stop running and we allow somebody at first, ourselves, and then other people, into whatever that thing is that we're running from. We pull the veil back and allow other people to see us as we are.
Yeah.
And it's so freeing.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, think about people in your life who you don't have to pretend. You can just put out, you can do you.
Yeah.
And you're not measuring every word, how freeing that feels. And knowing they're going to accept you no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, and it really also helps us, like you were saying, connecting with people. It really helps us connect. I think of this, John's going to kill me. He's made it into our video here. But this is what I'm going to say, right? Is like, there have been times when I know that my emotion is irrational, right? My thought process is irrational, my emotional response. And he'll just give me that look and be like, what you thinking about? And in that moment, you have that time when you're like, I could just be like, nothing.
Jen, you just gave him ammunition.
I know I did. This is good. Right. I know. He's going to play it back, rewind, play it back.
This is exhibit A of vulnerability, actually. For you to say that on the camera about a real thing in your life.
But then I could say, nothing. Or I could be like, you know what? That look that you gave me when I walked through the kitchen earlier, it like plucked some of my own internal script. And so now I'm trying to struggle through that, even though I know that it's not real. It's not, or it's real, but it's just an emotional response here. But the minute that you take it out of darkness, like you were saying, and you say it, well, now he can meet me there.
Right. Jen, think about what you just did. You made yourself safer with John.
Yeah.
By saying that out loud for the world, you just made yourself safer.
Yeah.
That's what vulnerability is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it does make you feel like, wow, like I have something to protect. Right. You want to protect that vulnerability.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like once you start doing that and you get past that fear of being vulnerable, it opens a whole nother world.
Yeah, you just said an interesting phrase, protecting that vulnerability. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it like that. Mm-hmm. Usually we think, I'm going to protect my image. I'm going to protect what people think of me.
Yeah.
But what's implicit in what you're saying in that phrase, protect vulnerability, is there's a cost for not being vulnerable. Like that vulnerability is so priceless. It's so rich. It adds so much to our life that I can't think about living without that. So I'm going to protect that.
Yeah.
That's golden.
Yeah.
Can I steal that?
You can have it. Yeah. You can have it. You know what? And
I like borrowing things from PhDs. Thanks, Dr. Next.
You're welcome, State School. But it leads right into one of the other pillars too, which is positive relationships.
Right.
We grow in relationship. When we have those moments, like I would love to say that, I don't ever have those rubs where I'm struggling with the internal.
Right.
But when you do, you grow.
Yeah. I mean, for the person that's watching us that, maybe is not a clinician, that, you're living your life, whatever. I mean, I think that fourth pillar, is that the fourth one? Positive relationships. That's a key to sound mental health. It's hard to be depressed, to be anxious, to be living in trauma responses when we're in connected relationships with people. Think about that, a time, where you're sitting around with friends, family, maybe one other person, whoever it is, your dog, hopefully more than your dog. Hopefully you do have a great dog. That's
of course
essential.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have humans.
That's the next podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do pain.
Yeah.
So this one's about humans.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have other humans that know you at that level that you're connected to. Depression, anxiety, all kinds of pathology tends to recede.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Just the ability to connect with people. It fights the shame piece when you can be that vulnerable and authentic with someone.
Absolutely. What do we have next, Jen?
Next, we have self-care.
Oh,
we love this one, don't we?
We do. We love self-care is our jam. It's our jam.
Yeah, self-care. This one, self-care can look different for everyone. Right? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when we think of self-care is, did I drink water? Did I exercise? Did I sleep? Did I do all the things that society might deem as self-care? But there are other things.
Right.
For self-care.
So you're saying self-care is a pillar of resilience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tie for us, tie self-care and resilience. Why it's a pillar, how those two things go together.
Yeah. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, there's like an energy reserve, right?
Right.
And if you don't have that, then when you come up against challenging situations,
right? You have nothing in reserve to draw upon.
You have nothing in reserve. And self-care also, when we really dig deep in research, I know, here we are again, right? It also, no, I can't help it.
Yeah.
But self-care is also a lot about insight. So it's related to that self-awareness. Self-care can be just insight into, these are my tendencies. I'm going to be aware of them. I'm going to attend to those.
Right.
So that I
You don't hear people talking about that a whole lot. It sounds like what I hear you saying between the lines is that when I take time to know me, to know what's going on in me, just to know me, that's a form of self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't usually talk about it like that.
Right.
You know, and a lot of us probably struggle with, we live for other people. We're aware of their needs, you know, what's going to make them happy. You know, we call it codependency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of us deal with that, but we're not as aware of what's important to me. What are my feelings? What are my desires?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's self-care.
What inspires me?
Ooh. So what does inspire you, Jen?
Well,
What's your jam?
clearly doing videos with you, Eric. That's what it is. Yeah.
Second guess I was going to have.
What was your first guess?
I forgot.
Oh, okay. What inspires you, Eric?
What inspires me is knowing people, seeing people, having them see me and know me, and being able to have some kind of life-giving exchange where me and another person walk away from an interaction and we're both values been added to both of us. To me, that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
I love scenes in movies like that. I love real life. I mean, I think of The Legend of Bagger Vance. You know, there's multiple scenes where Will Smith, this movie's over 20 years old,
Yeah.
where Will Smith is the caddy and Matt Damon is a traumatized veteran whose whole platoon died in war, and he survived. It was his job to protect them. And there's just so many life-giving exchanges between, and you just see, you feel the energy being poured from Will Smith to Matt Damon. I mean, I feel it right now just talking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing words echo like Captain Juno. That was the character that Matt Damon played. He said, Juno, you have to find your true swing. You know, they're hitting drives at dusk on this beautiful golf course. And he's like, no, I'm talking about in life. What's your true swing? And he's just pouring into a soul that has died. It died with his men out there on the battlefield. And he's just pouring into that soul, and through the movie, you're just watching it come to life. To me, that's inspiring. When I watch that, I'm like, wow, I want people to do that for me, and I want to do that for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People to walk away from interactions and say, wow, I don't know what it is, but I feel a little more alive.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen in hiding.
No.
It happens in revealing, like things we're afraid, sides of us we're afraid to reveal.
Yeah.
That's where it happens.
Yeah. You know, I remember this time when I was in school and we were talking about authenticity, and you're like, let's do an experiment. Just be authentic with some people that you interact with in normal everyday situations, right? So I walk to my car and I get in the elevator and there are people in the elevator and I'm like, all right, I guess I got to be authentic. And so instead of just like, hey, hi, you know, it's like, how are you today? What's going on in your life today? What was the best thing that happened to you today? And then all of a sudden we've got this little cohort of people in the elevator, right?
Oh my God.
Who are like having interactions, and they leave the elevator and they're going, hey, have a great rest of your day. I hope you get to finish doing that, or, you know, but because we actually connected.
Right.
And it wasn't just the surface level, like, yep, I'm good. Have a great day.
Interesting. Like you're laying out a series of simple questions. You know, how's your day going? How are you? Just that provided an entryway into the emotional space of other people.
Mm-hmm. To connect. Yeah.
Then it called forth authenticity in them. And the result, as you keep playing that out, is connection.
Yeah.
And then the result of connection is life-giving forces to all the parties' internal self that are involved.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the last pillar then, because it goes right into that purpose. right? Because when you walk away from interactions like that, suddenly you're at a higher purpose.
Yes.
It's just like my purpose, walk into the car. I gotta get to the car, gotta get home, gotta do that, gotta do this. But all of a sudden it slows down and there's more purpose.
Right. It gets us out of the grind and gives a deeper meaning to life. Because at the end of the day and during the day, life's really about people.
Yeah.
That's what gives meaning and purpose to life. I mean, it's not all the tasks, the accomplishments, all the accolades, all that. It's the quality of relationships with people. And that's really a solution, a huge solution for mental health kind of issues. I mean, I think of how many people, if you ask, hey, what are you doing? How's it going? Oh, I'm grinding. I hear that sometimes. I'm grinding, bro. You know, that's not like what we're like. Entering people's emotional space pulls people out of the grind, and it creates a whole different experience in real time.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like as you're laying stuff out, one of the things that pops in my mind is that kind of life-giving relationship. It's not about information. Information's great. You know, hopefully we're giving some good information, but it's about creating an experience. That's so powerful than just reading information as a baseline of knowledge to fall back on. But when we have experiences with people that we've created, they've created, we're co-creators in experiences. I mean, that's where life has purpose.
Yeah. And all of these put together, here's a great thing. All of these pillars are things that we can develop skills. We can increase our resilience. You know, years ago, they used to think that resilience was something that it was a character trait. It was not going to change. There were nothing you were going to do about it. Either you've got it or you don't. But now we know that people can actually increase their resilience. When you focus on these 5 pillars and you lean in, if you will, to these different things, you can actually increase your resilience.
Wow. Yeah, I think another great conversation would just be getting more specifically into skills. Like what skills can people develop? You know, like off the top of our heads, like we don't have time to get into these today, but I mean, things like emotional regulation, that's a skill, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably a whole bunch more. We won't do any spoiler alerts here.
We won't do any spoilers.
Cut it off there.
I would even say that there are some skills that we've developed, coping skills that are a little bit, we like to use that word maladaptive, right? They're because we've had challenging situations. And so we've developed ways of approaching them, which we might have to peel that skill back and be like, maybe I don't need that anymore. Maybe I don't need that anymore.
Right. All right, Jen, land the plane for us.
Okay. So what we know are that all of these things are things that we can learn more, we can lean into, we can develop more resiliency by self-awareness, by vulnerability, right? By leaning into self-care, and self-care doesn't necessarily mean just like going to get your nails done, although that's a good idea too, right?
Yeah.
But insight and being aware of ourselves and our tendencies. Right. By looking at purpose, what is our purpose? Right. And positive relationship. Right. All those things put together are going to increase our resiliency and have a positive impact on mental health, on our thriving, on life experience or life satisfaction. Right. All put together.
No, that's right, because life is going to have a lot of bumps in the road, so a lot of curveballs. Yeah. That's a given.
Yep.
As some of my friends would say, Jen, you can take that to the bank.
Definitely.
The only question is just, are we going to have, what kind of resilience are we going to have when those things happen?
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, this was a good conversation. We should do it again.
Yeah, we should. I love great conversations.
Awesome.